Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into the history and legends of Exmoor, a region that holds a special place in my heart. I've spent countless hours exploring this beautiful landscape as a tourist and a volunteer in the past, so this video might be a bit longer than usual. Exmoor was designated a national park in 1954 under the 1949 National Parks Act. It is loosely defined as an area of hilly open moorland in West Somerset and North Devon in southwest England. However, it is more precisely defined as the area of the former ancient royal hunting forest, also called Exmoor. It's named after the River Exe, whose source lies just 2 miles northwest of Simmonsbath. This upland area has a dispersed population living mainly in small villages and hamlets. The largest settlements, Porlock, Dulverton, Linton, and Lynmouth, contain almost 40% of the park's population. Interestingly, Linton and Lynmouth form one parish, connected by the Linton and Lynmouth Cliff Railway. The park celebrates its 70th anniversary this year. The Park Authority recently unveiled the Exmoor section of the King Charles III Coastal Path, the first section to open in the southwest. Improvements have been made along a quarter of the length of this 35-mile stretch, so that walkers at popular Devon and Somerset spots, such as Hurlstone Point, North Hill, and Glenthorne, can enjoy revived ancient paths and even more scenic views. The expanded route adds to the national trail around the whole coast of England, taking in existing coastal national trails like the Southwest Coast Path, but offering new public access to link up and improve existing Exmoor routes, enabling people to better experience and value the benefits of this picturesque landscape. Exmoor borders the Bristol Channel on the north, has a beautiful coastline of rugged headlands, the highest cliffs in England, interspersed with narrow wooded valleys or combes. Inland, beyond the fringe of farms, lies a misty plateau of heather moors, rising more than 1,000 feet above sea level, with Dunkery Beacon at 1,703 feet. As the highest feature, the moors remain grazing grounds for hardy Exmoor ponies and Exmoor horned sheep, a thriving population of wild red deer. Let's begin our journey through time, starting with the Middle Ages when agriculture dominated the economy. We'll explore how the land changed hands from royal forest to private ownership, and how the Knight family transformed the landscape in the 19th century. During the Middle Ages, sheep farming for the wool trade came to dominate the economy. The wool was spun into thread on isolated farms and collected by merchants to be woven, fulled, dyed, and finished in thriving towns such as Dunster. The land started to be enclosed, and from the 17th century onwards, larger estates developed, leading to the establishment of areas of large, regular-shaped fields. When the Royal Forest was sold off in 1818, John Knight bought the house and the accompanying farm for £50,000. He set about converting the Royal Forest into agricultural land. He and his family also built most of the large farms in the central section of the moor, as well as constructing 22 miles of metalled access roads to Simmonsbath and a 29-mile wall around his estate. much of which still survives today. In the mid-19th century, a mine was developed alongside the River Barle. The mine was originally called Wheal Maria, then changed to Wheal Eliza. It was a copper mine from 1845 to 54, and then an iron mine until 1857, although the first mining activity on the site dates from 1552. At Simmonsbath, a restored Victorian water-powered sawmill, which was seriously damaged in the floods of 1992, has now been purchased by the National Park and returned to working order. It is now employed to make the footpath signs, gates, stiles, and bridges for various sites across the park. The history of Exmoor is one long story of how people from Mesolithic times to the present day have tried in different ways to live on and around the moor and exploit the area for their own purposes. They hunted and fished, cut down trees, built houses, cleared and cultivated land, grazed animals. They also traded, travelled, worshipped, and buried their dead. In doing these things, they left behind traces of their activities, such as flint arrowheads and standing stones, deserted mine shafts, and derelict buildings. At the same time, their actions helped form the Exmoor landscape as we know it today. Trees were gradually cleared from the hills, and later vegetation was controlled so that sheep could find the best grazing. The earliest remains date from the late Mesolithic, 8000 to 4000 BC, and comprise small flint implements called microliths. The first settled communities built a range of monuments, and Exmoor is especially rich in prehistoric standing stones, as well as nearly 400 burial mounds. Prehistoric hut circles and field systems can also be found on the moors. These sites form a remarkable group dating from the Neolithic, 4000 to 2000 BC, and Bronze Age, 2000 to 700 BC. The later historic period is characterized by small settlements, which archaeologists term hill slope enclosures and hill forts. Roman activity on Exmoor is represented by two fortlets on the coast at Oldborough and Martin Hoe, whilst Exmoor is ringed by Roman forts on its southern side. Recent work is showing that the Romans exploited Exmoor's iron deposits as well. The evidence for post-Roman Exmoor includes several inscribed stones, such as the Cullbone stone and the Caractacus stone on Winsford Hill, some early Christian church dedications, and some early place names. Exmoor has three Norman castles, one of which, Dunster, was rebuilt in stone. Two priories were founded in the medieval period at Dunster and Barlinch. The settlement pattern of farms, hamlets, and villages was largely established by the end of the 13th century. Several settlements were abandoned in the medieval period, and these form a valuable insight into life on Exmoor in medieval times. The best preserved is at Badgeworthy. More recently, Exmoor has been the home to a number of major estates and improving families who sought to better Exmoor's agriculture and infrastructure. Their influence is a constant presence in the modern landscape, in the architecture, roads, field patterns, and settlements. Exmoor's historic buildings are vital records of its development. Settlements on Exmoor comprise farms, hamlets, villages, and some small towns, and their buildings are by far the most visible and striking part of the historic landscape. Most settlements have existed on their current sites for hundreds of years, although frequent rebuilding means that the oldest known buildings date from the medieval period. The appearance of most buildings suggests that they date from around the 19th century, but sometimes external appearances can be deceptive, and their interiors may well reveal much more ancient foundations. The earliest surviving buildings on Exmoor are its churches, where their style and ornamentation can date them to the years shortly after the Norman conquest. Establishing the earliest date of simple stone structures is far more difficult. An indication of a building's age can be gained initially from the type of construction used. For instance, the wooden limbs of the cruck frames forming a building's roof. One of these, near Selworthy, has been dated by dendrochronology to the early 1300s. No exploration of Exmoor would be complete without mentioning R.D. Blackmore's novel Lorna, Doone and its impact on the area's reputation. Blackmore's novel intertwines fact and fiction, depicting the notorious Doone family and the heroic John Ridd. The Doones were a real outlaw family expelled from Perthshire in 1620, who settled in a ruined Celtic monastery on Exmoor and made a living through blackmail and extortion. In Blackmore's novel, John Ridd defeats the Doones and wins the heart of Lorna. Orr Church, a central location in the novel, is pointed out as the place where Lorna Doone was shot on her wedding day. Whether this incident is based on fact remains unclear. Another real historical figure from the novel is the highwayman Tom Faggus. Born in South Molton and hanged in Taunton, Faggus was said to have a horse believed to be his familiar spirit. It was claimed that Faggus would never have been captured if his horse hadn't been shot first. Interestingly, several local people still claim descent from John Ridd, whether fictional or not. The Beast of Exmoor, an alleged big cat, has sparked numerous eyewitness reports since the 1970s. It became notorious in 1983 when a South Molton farmer claimed to have lost over 100 sheep to the beast, all with violent throat injuries. In response, Royal Marine Commandos were deployed to capture it, but after 6 months, no sightings were confirmed. Descriptions of the beast vary, ranging from black to tan or dark grey, suggesting it might be a cougar or black leopard, released after the 1976 Exotic Pets Act. In 2006, the British Big Cat Society reported that a Devon farmer found a skull believed to be that of a puma. Exmoor's folklore is rich with tales of witchcraft, mischievous pixies, and supernatural beings. Hares are believed to have connections with witchcraft, and one folklore story tells of Fanny Pope, who kept the Poult Inn at Heathpolt Cross, where there is now a bungalow. She lived with her grandson, who was often asked by the hare coursers if he could find them a good hare to chase. He always managed to find one, and one day the hunt was suspicious when the lad could be heard shouting the words, "Run, Granny, run, or they'll catch you." On going to the inn later, they could see Fanny looking like she had been pulled through a hedge backwards and out of breath. Maybe she was the hare. The villagers thought so, as she was known as a witch locally. Her inn mainly supplied ale to the thirsty miners on the mineral line, so any extra customers were gratefully received. Pixies, known locally as the Little In-Between Folk, are integral to Exmoor's lore. Places like Pixie Copse, Pixie Meadow, and Pixie Lane bear their name. The Earl of Carnarvon once thought Pixton Estate in Dulverton might have been known as Pixie Town. Pixies were not to be ridiculed, as old Exmoor characters took these legends very seriously. Stories tell of farmers being led astray by mischievous pixies or having their corn thrashed by them at night. There is a famous story of a notorious farmer called Mole from Hangley Cleeve on Exmoor. The full story can be heard in my Pixies video linked below. Withypool and Hawkridge were the domain of the monarch of the Pixies, with farms around this area receiving special attention. The King of Pixies allegedly ruled at Knighton Farm near Withypool. The devil is said to have left his mark on Exmoor, creating landmarks like Dunkery Beacon and Tar Steps. According to legend, he created the Punch Bowl on Winsford Hill by scooping a spadeful of earth and tossing it over his shoulder, thus creating Dunkery Hill. Tar Steps, the iconic ancient clapper bridge over the River Barle, is also attributed to the devil, who is said to have sunbathing rights on the bridge. Exmoor's ghost stories add another layer of intrigue. Dunster Castle, with its 1,000-year history, is renowned for paranormal activity. Dunster was once home to a large Benedictine chapel that was destroyed when Henry VIII reigned. Some people say almost every building is haunted with all sorts of spectres, including Civil War troops, grey ladies, and even phantom horses. Given its extensive history, it's no surprise Dunster is rich with many haunting tales, so much so that it deserves its own dedicated video. In the Chetsford Water area, phantom hoofbeats and neighs have been heard, with the last report in 2023. Nearby, a large standing stone near Mattoxdown Barrow was shattered by lightning in 1996. According to legend, the ghosts of soldiers killed on an ancient battlefield gather at this stone. Clergymen on Exmoor were noted for their ability to lay ghosts to rest. When a ghost troubled locals, the parish priest was the first point of contact. One tale tells of a parson whose ghost haunted his own house after his death. Despite traditional burial rituals, his ghost was found sitting in his armchair every night. Another parson, known for his ghost-laying skills, eventually arrived and led the ghost out of the house. They crossed the meadows to a bottomless pool where a flash of lightning marked the ghost's disappearance. Ghost-laying often involved praying at a ghost and conjuring it into an object, usually a bottle, which was then deposited in water. The deeper, the better. Meanwhile, in the Doone Valley, there was a 19th century sighting of a werewolf. A woman described seeing a grey man stalking a large rabbit after dark. Oddly, the man had the head of a wolf. A stag then ran out from a nearby thicket, and the werewolf vanished. This figure more likely cynocephaly, or dog-headed man, is a common occurrence in English legends. If you enjoyed this exploration of Exmoor's history and legends, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future videos delving into our folklore and heritage. I love reading your comments, so let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover. Until next time, thanks for watching and farewell.